All right, guys, we're here today with Mr. Aaron Dimmock. He is one of the candidates running to replace Mr. Matt Gates. Buddy, first time we've got to sit down and talk with each other, get to know a little bit about you and get to tell the citizens a little bit about who you are. Guys, you know we don't mess around. We're going to jump right into it. He's got a place that he's got to get to, so let's roll. You say so?
That sounds awesome. Thanks, Tommy. Right, you bet. Good morning.
Number one, who are you? Tell us a little bit about your family first, and then we'll jump into your history and all that in a minute.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks again, Tommy. Awesome to be with you this morning.
Yes,
who am I? Yeah, I will start with family. After mentioning that I'm a husband, a father, a leader, and a patriot.
Gotcha.
And I'll start with my wife, Kim. My wife, Kim, and I met on a blind date in May of 1993.
Wow.
While I was at the Naval Academy and she was in college playing basketball. And 3 years later, when I graduated from the Naval Academy, became a commissioned naval officer. 2 weeks after that, we actually got married. And then a week after that, we headed down here to Pensacola to begin flight school.
Nice.
So I was a Navy pilot for a little over 20 years. And my wife, Kim, and I are coming up on 29 years of marriage. June 14th, Flag Day, we will celebrate our 29th anniversary. And we're blessed by the presence of 4 children in our lives. We have Camden, our oldest, and Kinsey, Amelia, and Peyton. 3 of those 4 were born here in Florida. We've been Florida residents for well over 20 years.
Gotcha.
We love calling Florida home. In fact, my mom and brother live here, as well as my aunt and uncle and a cousin. They all live here. So yeah, we love Florida. And after we got married, came down here, I started flight school, as I mentioned.
Right.
And then had that 20-year military career. I had the opportunity to lead operational missions all around the globe, missions in the Middle East, missions in Europe, North Atlantic, Central and South America, as well as Far East, Asia, and had the privilege of flying over Ground Zero on September 11th, 2001.
Oh, wow.
Through that evening, yes, to be able to provide imagery, surveillance, and communications and patrol the North Atlantic coast through that evening and successive evenings. So a great operational experience. And then I had the opportunity to actually held command of the Navy Recruiting District, headquartered in Richmond, Virginia, and I was the chief executive officer equivalent, the commanding officer, but chief executive officer of that organization. And we covered Maryland, all of DC, Virginia, and a portion of North Carolina. And our district became the #1 out of all 24 districts in the country. And that recognition allowed me the opportunity to go to the Pentagon and work for the Secretary of Defense, 2 different Secretaries of Defense, first Secretary Chuck Hagel and then Ash Carter. And I was on a small team looking at leadership and character development and ethics across all the armed services. And we had an opportunity to do a deep dive and help the efforts to internally hold ourselves accountable, avoid and try to address some forms of corruption internally and hold people in positions of leadership accountable that weren't doing the right stuff. So then I took that skill set and then created my own business, my own consulting LLC. And I do the same thing now for organizations across all industries and sectors, public, non-private, for-profit, and nonprofit, and working with their executive teams to do the same thing, work on leadership, character development, ethics, and addressing some corruptive behaviors that might be resident on their teams, hold them accountable so that the team performs better. And then I had the opportunity a year and a half ago, actually, I was hired on by the University of West Florida Center for Leadership in their business school to be their director for executive development. And while I was...
Do you get a break, man?
I mean, it's good. It's a good balance. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So I travel a lot around the country and internationally. But when I was there, trying to help efforts there and supporting different organizations locally and around the country, and then kept an eye on the race that was coming up or already in process with our former congressman. And I noticed that there weren't any Republicans that were on the ticket to challenge him. So at the end of April, I resigned from my position at the University of West Florida, became the only Republican qualified candidate last April, and then ran a 116-day campaign to be able to provide our voters across our district an alternative to vote for. And amazingly enough, the highest endorsement any candidate can get is a vote from our constituents, the citizens that are in the district, and I got 26,788 of those.
Right.
And we've been building on that momentum and energy ever since.
Absolutely.
Several days after the August primary, I filed a statement of candidacy with the FEC to be able to run in 26, and then obviously we're here in the special election, so that moved
Quick
up the
turnaround.
timeline a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Good grief.
Yeah.
Pivoting from one candidate to now you've got, what is it, 9 others you're dealing with?
That's
Good
right.
night, man.
A little different than one-on-one.
Yeah, in a very short amount of time.
That's
too.
right.
Good grief. All right, buddy. Now moving on to the next question. If the citizens decide to elect you, what would your biggest priorities be and why?
Yeah, so thanks again, Tommy. My biggest priorities align very much with our incoming president's agenda. 3 days, we'll have our new president.
Yes.
And then when the administration comes in, I will bring energy behind securing our border,
Okay.
exciting and empowering our economy, as well as supporting the America First national security agenda. So I mentioned I had the opportunity to lead operational missions all around the globe, but this specific one, as it comes and relates to lived experience with border security,
Right.
leading missions, operational missions in Central and South America. So fighting against the cartels in Colombia specifically, as well as El Salvador, missions out of Manta, Ecuador, and being able to help in that effort to limit drugs, primarily cocaine, but fentanyl was a thing back then as well. So to limit those, as well as the trafficking in persons, people that are brought here for various things, as well as trying to secure the border. So bringing that operational military experience to DC will help encourage, I think, more lived experience conversations and inform them. And then certainly working with our new border czar, Tom Hammond,
Right.
to be able to put his team in the positions that they need to and assist his efforts
Right.
to be able to limit that. And I think we're already seeing a difference that has been made just in the wake of the general election and the results and President Trump's influence
It's
there.
amazing how that happens.
Amazing, right? Yeah. So paid attention to, and we'll continue to make great strides there. From an economic standpoint, we need to continue to fight inflation. We can't let the government print money. We can't print money. So the government shouldn't. That is a hedge against inflation as well. And
Absolutely.
then getting rid of pork barrel politics and being able to reel in the budget, balance the budget, go against the deficit, fight the national debt, start trimming away at that. And one of the very immediate things we could do is by way of reform, is get rid of the Department of Education. Start there, use that as a case example, save about $200 billion a year, and then use that as that case example to then reform other departments as needed and trim back. And then the other thing that we can certainly do is, I know, having been in the Department of Defense, we can cut there as well. From the personnel side, we have a lot of what's referred to as bloat.
Right.
We have way more people than we need, so we can start to throttle back on those elements as well, those positions, to be able to save money and get that budget back in. And then as far as the America First national security policy, it's really an emphasis on the fact that we need to pay attention to American principles.
Absolutely.
Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, the things that we value, and let those actually govern what we choose among the various options, to have a very clear-eyed view of what is in our best interests, what is in the United States national interests. And if they're of interest, then terrific. Let's put the will and determination to meet those challenges head on.
Yeah.
And if they're not, then they are no longer a priority, so that we have room and capacity to be able to deal with other things. The neat thing about those three specific things at the national level, the federal level, is that they map on very nicely to what I've been referring to as being able to protect, for our district, protect our wildlife and our way of life.
Right.
So when we focus on those things, certainly border security keeps our district secure.
Right.
From an economic standpoint, being able to work with the local and state officials to make sure we have the dollars needed for infrastructure to continue to keep supporting tourism and agriculture throughout our district. And then as well as the military side, supporting that America First agenda, recapitalize some of our military infrastructure across all the bases, some deteriorating buildings and hangars that need to be addressed. They're long overdue, as well as looking into the opportunity for continued mission expansion within the military research and development in certain spaces like artificial intelligence and cybersecurity and cyberspace and awareness. So I'm excited about the economic potential for our district and how those national priorities absolutely map on to our local district priorities.
Absolutely, man. It sounds like you know a little bit about what you're talking about.
Thanks, Tommy.
Oh man, you hit on,
I'm just listening to our constituents, my friend.
that's number one right there. It's the first thing, number one thing you got to do, man. Sounds like you're doing it. And you hit on some of the things that we're going to hit on a little bit later. So kudos to you for already getting there.
Right on.
One of the questions is if you get elected, what 3 committees would you like to be on and why?
Another great question. So at the behest of the Speaker and Congress, where they think they have the most need, but certainly with my experience in the military, would love to be a member of the House Armed Services Committee.
Absolutely.
To be able to help out there. Would also really appreciate an opportunity to sit on the House Appropriations Committee, especially the subcommittee, or specifically the subcommittee on military construction and veterans affairs. So the focus there, again, with my experience, what I think I could help and bring value to there. And then finally, I would really appreciate the opportunity to sit on the House Ethics Committee. I just mentioned that working for the Secretaries of Defense, like my team for a couple of years was responsible for looking at those very things across the Department of Defense.
It's a natural flow right into it for you.
100%. And my business, my LLC, that's what I've been working in. That's the space I've been working in since I retired. And I retired, I failed to mention, but I did retire at the Naval Aviation Museum a few years back. So
nice.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience as well. And yeah, those are the 3 specific committees that I think I might be able to bring the most value to.
It sounds like it, man. It definitely does. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. The northern parts of this district is agricultural farming.
You bet.
And many are concerned about their future, their way of life, and why should they not support you? And how will you help these guys out?
Yeah, why should they not support
Why would they or why would they not support you?
Oh, gotcha. No, definitely. I think they would support me because I've already talked with a few folks that are in the agricultural space,
right,
north of I-10 predominantly, but there is a little bit in our district south of I-10. But being able to have a voice with the folks, the lobbyists, positive lobbyists that support our agriculture. And it's interesting, not many folks know, like even the peanuts that are grown here, like Mars uses us because they know, and our agriculture, our farmers, because they know their quality.
Absolutely.
You know, things like that, to be able to get the word out for that, help support them, is what I'm all about. Because yeah, that's because we're so tourism heavy and military heavy in our district. I don't want the agricultural component to be forgotten, because that's one of the 3 very, very important avenues for economic support and health throughout our district. So yeah, that's a huge component.
Yes, it is. And they are some great people. I know,
absolutely.
Know many of them, grew up with a lot of them, and we raise cattle ourselves. And
perfect.
Man, oh man.
And it's needed, right?
Yes,
it's needed to be able to support again, our way of life. Food supply, tremendous. Like, we can't forget about the basics, right?
Absolutely. And getting your food here in America.
From here.
Yeah, not from overseas.
That's right.
All right. Another one big around here is energy. With Trump coming back in, would you support more drilling in the Gulf? Why or why not?
Yeah, I don't support it at all. And it's been a consistent message that I've offered. We had energy independence under the Trump administration before. We will have it again. And with fracking, with nuclear energy, with solar, and the pipelines from Alaska and the East and West Coast, we have all kinds of energy resources to draw on to go right back to that energy independence and leave our Gulf unaffected.
Good answer.
Protecting the wildlife, our way of life, and I'm happy to fight anyone that challenges me on that.
Sounds good to me right there, buddy. And you, like I said, you hit on this earlier. I'll ask it if you want to add to it. Great. If not, we can move on. But military and vets are huge in this district. Why should they support you? And what, if any, changes do you want to make to any part of that right there?
Yeah, I think what we really need to be mindful of is the influx of military veterans and retirees that have come into our district the last several years. And the last movement we had was under Congressman Jeff Miller for the VA clinic. And so that is an absolute priority. And the focus there, I think it's something that we can absolutely do a quick turn on to be able to work with the VA and get the support that we need, because Mobile is probably the closest one that has the capacity for the folks that are in the area. We lack that capacity here in the two biggest areas near Eglin and Pensacola.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
That's right. That's right. So that's absolutely a focus area. And for me, I don't know if many folks are familiar with it, but it was 30 years ago that the Honorable Earl Hutto retired out of Congress, 1995. It's been 30 years since we've had a veteran in that seat.
Wow.
So it's high time for a veteran to be in that seat, and I feel that I'm that veteran.
Gotcha. Sounds good, man. All right. We got a couple more here, and then I'll let you get out of here.
Right
buddy.
on, brother.
This one is another big one, of course. This is not just here, all over. What's your stances on the Second Amendment, and would you like to see it loosened up or reined in, and where are you on open carry?
Yeah, all for open carry. I would like to see a pro-Second Amendment, and our right to bear arms is something that has to be continually fought for, because there are the Democratic side that challenge against it. And having been in the military, used firearms, have so many friends that have firearms, I think there's a way to go for being able to make the public aware of some of the challenges there, like red flag laws. Those need to be repealed so that folks are we're all deserving of due process, and folks need to read up on it if they're not smart on it, because that's where some of those rights are infringed. And it doesn't make sense that a law-abiding citizen would be challenged with just having their arms apprehended before the local authorities even know what the instance is for why they're coming in. So those things like that, they need to be addressed. They need to be addressed swiftly. I was just at the gun show over the last weekend, and great to chat with folks and learn about some of the challenges that they're having. But no, I think that's something that hands down needs to continue to be protected. And we need to continue to fight against the left to make sure they're protected.
Great answer. And I want to throw this in there real quick. You know, I always thought it's funny, you know, how a lot of people like to just jump all over guns, but I grew up from a small boy with firearms in my hands. We were raised and shown and how to properly care for them, how to properly use them. And it's amazing we don't ever have any issues.
That's correct.
Around here with stuff like that.
That's
exactly we were all shown the right way to do it and hold it. But anyway,
that's right.
It's crazy how that happens.
It is.
We got two more. Another one that everybody, I'm sure, has asked you a million times, and I'm sure I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Sure.
Abortion. Yeah. What's your stance?
Pro-life, 100%. Gotcha.
I figured that.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask all the candidates. This one's kind of a little funny one here at the end.
Okay.
We've heard Trump talk about Greenland.
Yeah.
Would you like us to acquire Greenland?
Yes, I actually would. And one thing that I think will become more and more apparent, if folks look back to his first administration, he actually started talking about it then. And one of the elements with the developments up north is with the glaciers melting, there are more sea lanes that are navigable.
Right.
And it's very easy. The trip is shorter up at the top of the earth for all vessels, which means it's easier and quicker for Russia and China to actually reach the Greenland area, which then means they can come down through Canada and into the United States. Exactly. So I think it's more and more, I think folks will become smarter on the fact that it's a national security interest, it's an economic interest, and it will continue to be so as we move into the future. So as far-fetched as some folks think it might be, and then the Danes have already mentioned publicly that they're open to negotiating and figuring that out. Right. So I think that's an interesting proposition, and I think it's to the benefit of the United States.
Absolutely. All right, last one. Give us your contact information and how people can get a hold of you if they need to ask a question type of deal, and anything else you want to add there at the end, buddy.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Tommy. I appreciate the conversation and your willingness to meet this morning on this beautiful day here.
Absolutely. By the way, guys, we're down here at the old Baghdad Mill Park down here.
That's right.
Perfect part of Santa Rosa County here in beautiful Baghdad. We wanted to do it in a historic area, and hardly it gets more historic than that.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So no, beautiful day and great again to join you, Tommy. So I can be reached at 850-462-8830. My email is aaronwdimmock@gmail.com, and my website is aarondimmock.org. Please feel free to reach out. Early voting starts tomorrow.
Yes.
And I would appreciate your consideration for voting for Aaron Dimmock on January 28th. Thanks again, Tommy.
Yes,
Great to be with you this morning.
Yes, sir, my friend. All right, guys. Toodles.